The flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We do not have a closed session tonight, so the first thing on our agenda will be, and actually I'm going to do one quick housekeeping thing. And remind myself at the same time, because I've noticed that when we're online, it's very difficult for people to hear unless we speak directly into the microphone. So I will remind everyone and any of you who come to the podium, please do the same. All right, so the first thing on our agenda is approval of tonight's agenda.
In that regard, Madam Mayor, it seems like items 1 through 4 of the consent agenda would be more appropriate as reports under, staff reports. There's no action required by the council. So it was going to be my intention to pull those from the consent agenda, but I guess we could deal with it at this point also. I don't know, 6 of one, a half dozen of the other, but the way I see it, unless it requires some kind of council action, should come under staff reports or something.
Yeah.
So I intend to pull 1 through 4 from the consent agenda.
Okay. And pull them, you don't want to pull them into the regular agenda, you want to put them in the staff report.
Yes, yes. I don't want discussion on it. It just seems.
Understood. But they just fit administratively better with the staff. I would concur. Any other thoughts on the counselors?
Yeah, I would like to know what all those items are, and then they can discuss a little bit more in detail.
So I guess I'll move to approve the agenda with that amendment modification to the consent
We need to
agenda.
go to public comments briefly first before we make the motion. Are there any public comments regarding that change in kind of categorization of these items? All right, seeing none, go ahead, Bryce. Sorry about that.
So I'll move approval of the agenda with the removal of items 1 through 4 from the consent agenda to staff report. Okay.
All right, and I will second. All those in favor? Say aye. So moved. Next, we have on the agenda the February 11th, 2025 minutes. Were there any questions or comments about those minutes? Any public comments regarding the minutes from February 11th? I see any, so I will bring it back to the council for a motion.
I move if we accept the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, Jack seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So those minutes are approved. And we will go on to the council reports and committee assignments. So I'll start at this end. Carrie, do you have anything you want to report?
I do. I went to the RREBC meeting, REDEC meeting, and we had a presentation and discussion by Jeremy Smith. He's the chief of staff for California State Building Construction Trade Council. We spoke about project labor agreements and how they support keeping grants and funds for construction projects in Humboldt, and making sure that we're including project labor agreements in our contracts. Really anything. I guess we haven't been doing that a whole lot in Humboldt, and we're just getting a lot of people flying in to work for the week. And our local tradespeople constructing work. So just be mindful of that in our future projects, construction projects. And then we just provided updates around what's been going on in various town councils and provided some tips.
Yeah, let's see, last week I attended the Humboldt Transit Authority board meeting. Humboldt Transit Authority, they have a bus service from down to Ukiah once a day, all the way up to Crescent City, and they provide bus service here in town every 3 hours. One of the things that I was most interested in to bring to the council is they're going to expand their dial ride service. So for seniors or people with disabilities to get to their doctor's appointments, it's really hard to just take a bus because the bus just drops you off. It doesn't get you to the appointment on time. So we're working on a better way to dial a ride to help seniors and other people with disabilities to get to their appointments on time. I think that's going to be a great new service for our community.
Dial ride free?
It is not free currently.
Oh.
No.
How do they price?
I do not know that, but it's on their website. If you have to call in.
The seniors pay for it.
Yes.
Yes, the Trinidad Animal Advisory Committee met on Wednesday, actually, I think. And there were a couple of action items to report. See, there was some disagreement about our minutes, and we agreed that we need to improve that. Second was that Commissioner Jackie introduced Sam Cuckens, who is the new Rancheria Public Safety Animal Officer. Then we took a look at the new webpage for the animal services, and there was an amendment recommended to be specific about the ordinance, the dog leashing ordinance, and so we're doing that. Or I guess we recommend it to council.
I think you can ask staff to update that. I don't think
Staff is aware. And then there was a motion to approve, to direct staff to recommend to the council, which would be a recommendation tonight, to change the ordinance, Trinidad ordinance, to allow the dog license fee update by resolution, and to update the animal control officer section to allow the city manager to designate the animal control officer. So I guess that way.
And is that something we need to put on the agenda then for council to?
That is, Mayor, we will be working on that and moving forward.
Thank you.
And finally, there was recommended that we have another meeting in short order in April, the agenda to include coastal pathogens, where there's some concern about pathogens on the beaches. And also about overlapping jurisdictions and fish laws as they apply. And any relevant issues regarding animal control, including the city ordinance, chapter 7. It was a very busy meeting.
Yes, it sounds like. Thank you. And we will have, just for in terms of protocol, after the councilors give their report out, we will have an opportunity for public to be in or anyone who was at the meeting who wants to add something. So.
Yeah, I got the flu a couple of weeks ago, so I was not able to attend the HCOG meeting, so I don't have.
Is that action?
I just have a couple of really quick ones. I attended the Humboldt Hazard Mitigation Planning meeting, and that's really about hazard mitigation is any sustained action taken to reduce or eliminate long-term risks from hazards to people or property. And so this is a county-wide initiative. Angela is really the brain trust on this, and I just attended so she could go to a major Z meeting. But essentially, some of the things they're looking at are dam failures, droughts, earthquakes, tsunami, extreme temperature, et cetera. And we talked a lot about kind of what are the next steps for planning, what are the goals around, hazard mitigation work, and then there's some upcoming meetings later in March, so we'll cover those as well. There was a survey that went out. I put it on Nextdoor, but I think we need to maybe try to get it on our website if it's not already there. Is it? Oh, great. Okay. So if you have a chance, check out the hazard mitigation survey and fill it out. They're trying to get to at least 1,000 responses. Obviously, we're just a portion of that. And then I attended the Redwood Coast Energy Authority meeting. Very interesting. Their goal is to get to 100% renewable, carbon-free, and 100% local renewable by 2030. Their mid-year budget review was quite positive. Positive cash flow. They had a surplus of cash. They're very obviously energy sales dependent, so rate changes really, really impact them. But they've done a really good job of expense control, and they got some program dollars back, and so they ended at mid-year much ahead of schedule in terms of their budget on the upside, I guess I would say. One thing that was kind of a low light was a discussion about federal funding impacts that they're feeling. For example, the Tribal Energy Resilience and Sovereignty Project, the wind power, is on hold right now. So that was kind of a big deal. And then solar is at risk, and any of those types of things. So that kind of really impacts. I'm looking at Jack because he's our main person on this committee, but that really impacts their ability to meet their goals, basically. So that was interesting, and that's all I have. Any questions from the council on any of the reports? All right, seeing none, we'll go to the public for any added comments, questions that you have for the council.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Barrett, 829 Edwards. My only question was whether we could get an update on the issue that was raised at the last two council meetings about signage on Edwards. I know you guys are working on it, but just kind of maybe an update for where we are with talking with an engineer.
Okay, I'm going to count that as items from the floor, and I'm going to say that.
Is it on the floor?
So we'll just kind of, we'll come back to items from the floor, but I'm going to answer, we should answer your question now.
Oh.
And that is that I think we're looking at April or May. We're waiting for some one more engineering recommendation. And we're going to try to get it on as soon as we can. So we're hoping for next month, but could be May. Is that?
We are waiting back from the one engineer to respond to our calls.
So hopefully sooner rather than later. Thank you for
Thank you.
that. Yeah. Okay, with that, I'm going to move on to staff reports, and this will be, the city manager will include Humboldt County Sheriff's Department. We're also going to hear from Pacific Coast Security and the first four items that were on the consent agenda. I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'll take the first whack at this. This is just a recap of what has happened for us here at the city of Trinidad over the last month. So we had a CSA 4 meeting. CSA 4 is fire services for this part of the county: West Haven Fire, Trinidad, Cal Fire, and District West Haven. The group included Supervisor Madrone, members of the county staff, Cal Fire, West Haven Fire, and Trinidad Fire, and Trinidad Rancheria. The initial discussion was for the value and need for a feasibility study for fire services for the CSA 4 group. The group really agreed and strongly suggested that we continue to look for volunteers for the fire department. So our fire chief is interested in anyone that wants to be a member of the volunteer fire department. I think there was some question on what kind of things the fire department does, and a lot of their calls are for medical needs. So for those folks out there who are listening that may have an interest and have some or no experience in that area, the chief would really like to have a discussion with you and maybe get you involved in the volunteer fire department. We're going to continue the study. We're going to meet with the group at the end of March to kind of fine tune the one proposal that was provided, try to get a better proposal out than we got back. We're going to try to fine tune some of the requests and some of the deliverables. So I will have more to report on that at at our next council meeting. A water update. So for those of you who listen closely to this part of the meeting, Coleman Sandell Engineering, I do not have a current invoice for them. The good news for us is we have a new interim CPO, Eric Sanders, who will be on board on March 19th. Now, Coleman Sandell's last day is March 18th. The new agreement for the interim CPO will be capped at $4,000 a month for essentially the same services that provided by Coleman. So they'll be up here at least once a month, and he will be answering the phone and helping with reporting requirements without it's all cost inclusive. We do have 2 more staff members who are taking their water treatment exam for T2 next week. They will need 1,000 contact hours, which will come pretty quickly to take their T3. We have 1 staff member who is preparing for his T3, and he will be very close to the required hours to qualify to act as a CPO. So we're building a bench. We'll have some backups, and we have an interim CPO in place that's going to help reduce costs in the short term. So we have some short-term stuff working for us, and we have some longer-term stuff that also is looking pretty promising. To water tank, water discussions, water tank and pipeline. We had a big week, was that 2 weeks ago? No, big week with the shutdown.
February 18th.
February 18th, thank you, Dave. We had a shutdown on February 18th. We had a few weeks of prep for that. So thank you for all the folks that helped participate and make that a success. Part for us was the school was closed that week, so that was one of the big concerns we had. We want to thank the Rancheria for helping us manage that because they're another large customer. It went very well. We were able to turn it back on just about on time, and it's been in operation since then. So we now have 2 tanks online, playing water. The water staff work day and night to keep the plant running in the time between the tank turning on and off and all the shutdowns. It was quite a lot for that little plant to kind of manage and our staff. So hats off to those folks that helped, Gabe and Angela and the water plant staff, Anton, everybody kind of pitched in and did their part to help make that a success. So thank you very much. West Haven Intertie project, you have seen before you an MOU. We met with West Haven director and general manager yesterday to fine tune some of the points that they had some questions on. And tonight, I'm happy to say that what you have on the table before you tonight is an agreement between both of us. So there's no need for further negotiation. Thanks to the mayor and the vice mayor for attending that meeting and helping us get this deal done. We couldn't have done it without you. The next goal would be to have the plan specs and engineering out by the middle of April so that we can go to bid and hopefully get competitive pricing before it gets too late into this construction season. I attended a regional climate action plan meeting. They talked about data from vehicle miles traveled. So it's interesting to find out where they get that data from now. I mean, it's basically everything, cars or watches or phones. So that data is out there. It's being marketed and sold and packaged in a variety of different ways. And it's fascinating to me how they're grabbing that data out of wherever we're at and using it for a variety of different purposes. So that information will be coming back to us as a part of the climate action plan, as the mayor discussed earlier. So we will see what that means for us here in Trinidad. Measure Z, there was a grant funded program in Humboldt County, sales tax measure for essential services. We did apply for a $57,000 grant for our water plant equipment that we need to repair or replace before our annual inspection this spring. Unfortunately, finished just out of the money. The sheriff department is going to probably use whatever remainder there is. If there is some additional funding, and we're pretty close to that lot of the line of being able to get funded. Not clear that the supervisors are going to put us into that funding group. So we will continue looking for grant funding opportunities, but the Measure Z are this package. So we'll keep trying. With that, I think the next folks up, Mayor, on your list, whoever's next.
Yeah, questions for Joe on the staff report from the council? I would like to just say that I think, you know, in the less than 90 days, I think that you've been on board. You've done a great job of handling the situation that we had at the water plant with Pullman Engineering. We've gotten as a council so much feedback over the last 6 months or a year that, you know, how expensive, candidly, that you know, operation was. The consulting. And so this is a vast improvement from that. So I want to thank Joe and recognize him for that. So
We would thank staff for the help, council for giving you really clear guidance on what you all expected in 65 days. By the Mayor.
I know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so I think the next thing on our list then is we're going to talk about budget later. So let's go to law enforcement. And I believe Lieutenant McCall is here with us. Hello, Lieutenant McCall, please go ahead and give us your report if you would.
All right, good evening. So yeah, looking at stats for February, looking at the city of Trinidad itself, confined to those city limit areas, it looks like we had a total of 23 total incidents or calls for service during that month. 4 of those being transfers to other agencies, and then nothing else super significant in that. We had like 3 civil standbys, some Trinidad patrols, a couple of abandoned vehicles, a couple of patrol checks, and then a bunch of one each of other just various things, agency assist. So that'd be for like fire, medical, 1 animal issue, camping violation, a general disturbance, a couple of public assist special detail calls, a welfare check. Kind of rounds out those calls for Trinidad proper for the month of February. Like I said, nothing that definitely nothing that stands out. And I apologize here, I lost my place on my screen. Looking at the stats for February for the greater Trinidad area, inclusive of West Haven and those outlying areas outside of city limits, but still, you know, trickling in and out of Trinidad proper. Looks like we had a total of 112 calls for service, which was down from January by about 50 calls from the previous month. With that, the reports taken were also down. We had 9 in January. That was down to 5 in February. 1 arrest for the month of February. 2 felony investigations, which was up 1 from the previous month, and 5 misdemeanor investigations, which was up 2 from the previous month. Again, looking at those other various calls that are in that, looks like we had one reported burglary of a vehicle or building, 1 other general theft, a general disturbance, a couple of alarm calls, several, like a handful of looks like a total of 8 between patrol checks, between whether that be business checks, foot patrols, or just patrol checks of the area. 5 unwanted subject or camping type calls, and then 1 suspicious person and 1 traffic stop. And then of those other kind of random calls that don't fit into those main categories, it looks like there was a total of 92 miscellaneous calls that were tallied for the month of February, which was again down from the previous month, which was at 126 for January. That's what I have for stats. Again, nothing significant going on in the greater Trinidad area that's crime trend wise or anything like that that's come across my desk that I'm aware of or seeing from these stats. Only other thing I will share, which is I was met with city manager earlier today and share with him as well, as we just promoted, we just finished sergeant testing and have identified a promotional deputy who's going to be promoting to sergeant next month. While he will be working the Eureka area, the shift he is going to has been down to 1 sergeant because of that vacancy. And that sergeant that's currently in Eureka will be moving back up to the McKinleyville area. So that'll definitely be a help of it. Just, gives us better supervisory control, another body up in the north area there, and just kind of cuts down on that gap and kind of more centralized supervision and spreads that out a little bit and just makes it a little bit easier on our end for our deputies and stuff, having that supervisor typically more readily available and in that area. So I think that's about all I have, other than any questions for me.
Any questions for Lieutenant McCall from council? Any questions for Lieutenant McCall from the public? Right, I see none. I will bring it back to the council. Thank you, Lieutenant McCall. I know you've got a lot to do, so we won't keep you unless you would like to stay. And I think we're going to have a presentation from our Pacific Coast Security next. Is that right, Joe?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'll invite Gene up to kind of introduce himself and tell us a little bit about Pacific Coast Security.
So a little bit, hi, I'm Gene Bass. I'm the owner of Pacific Coast Security, also the state qualified manager for the company. Got that most of you? So, did you want to hear from me, or do you have questions?
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit about what maybe,
Okay.
kind of what you have kind of seen over the last several months. I mean, I think it's been about a year now that since we signed.
So just to give you kind of some of the background, we do this similar type of patrol service from, we're actually licensed in the state of California, but mostly what we do is, Humboldt, Del Norte, Mendocino County. Your area here is definitely unique for us. It's nice. It's a change of pace for us. We've been up here for a while now, and I really haven't seen an uptick, or it's kind of stays steady up here as far as identified problems. But typically for us, we'll see an increase this time of year. More tourists. We get a lot of tourist questions during the time we're up here. I realized early on that not all cell service works up here. So when we're somewhere, we often will, tourists will flag us down for various reasons, mostly because they lose their GPS signal on their phone. So we do take a lot of questions and answers for folks, and hopefully give them advice on how to get to places. Often we let them use our Wi-Fi on our hotspot because we use Verizon. So we'll let them do that. Quite a few folks that we've met here that are absentee owners, I guess you would call them, that have rentals and short-term rentals. We've made contact with them through the course of patrolling and exchanged information and how to contact them we do find open doors, that type of stuff, or if they need our stuff to check on their property. Quite a few of the residents here have our numbers, so we do take calls and information and things to follow up when we're up here. Our calls to the sheriff's department are relatively low. We don't, I'm trying to think, I don't think we've sent anybody to jail, which is amazing. We've had a few people decide to leave the area, instead of going to jail, given that opportunity to just kind of vacate and police themselves. But overall, the response from the community and tourists and even your transient population has been very positive towards us.
Do you guys make citizens arrests?
We can't, yes. Yeah, typically we try to bring the sheriff's department in, but if somebody is aggressively behaving up here, we would effect a citizen's arrest, call the sheriff's department, hand them over to the sheriff's department.
I'd like to thank you. I see your car around. Sometimes it's you, sometimes it's somebody else with the same car. And it's always comforting. And I hear it from people who are out walking too, that it just gives a feeling that somebody's watching and is there if we need it. Thank you.
Yeah, we've been up here. We don't get a lot of calls for service per se, but we seem to stumble on things because it's a small town. Just a couple last week, there was a traffic accident. You probably all heard about it up on West Haven and off the off ramp there. And I've been fortunate to be out in front of City Hall when the siren goes off. Very loud. As soon as the siren went off, I was going this direction, and I don't monitor the fire frequencies, but I turned on the radio, trying to listen and see. As soon as I turned on the radio, I saw flashes down. There was a single car traffic accident down there, and I was able to be first on scene for that and directed traffic until CHP and Cal Fire, and I believe West Haven showed up as well. But it was a minor injury.
All right, I think what I'd like to do then is, see if there are some public questions or comments either on Joe's report, because we had, this is all part of one topic, or questions for Pacific Coast security. So I will turn it over to the public. Okay. I don't see any burning questions. I think one thing that I would love to have, I know you guys are really busy, is, regular, having you here is great. And, as questions come up, maybe every, once a quarter or something, I think that would work. And then we could ask questions and things. But I get a lot of good kind of anecdotal feedback.
Traditionally, what we've been doing is anything significant, we let Gabe know and let him disseminate that, which seems to be working pretty well. But if you want a different process, we can definitely do that. We don't keep a ton of stats because most of the contacts we make or the patrols that we regularly do are so regular, that we would probably have 3 pages of the same check, but we try to routinely check your residential areas and drive through, and often residents will just stop and chat us up or report maybe a suspicious vehicle or something. But somebody maybe that's traveling through town got their attention. We just observe them. If we have to, we call the sheriff's department. But generally, it's just more of a presence that moves people along. That and we work well with the tribal folks down there at the beach, which gets pretty busy down there. We do a lot of, I say we do a lot, but if somebody discovered we can help get their keys out of their cars. We do some lockout stuff with people occasionally, and jump started quite a few cars.
Yeah.
So, and we don't charge for any of that. So it's a good public service, because most of the time when we have to call a tow truck down here, I think the fastest we've ever seen was maybe an hour. So it's nice we can just jump start their car and get them along.
Okay, that's really good. And yeah, I've heard that, people have mentioned to me that they broke down and that Pacific Coast Security came by and they just felt reassured that it was night or this or that. So that's nice. I know when we first started talking, the museum, library, community park was a big issue. I'm looking at Patty because, you know, we spoke about this. Is this helping from your perspective?
Yeah, like, as Katie mentioned, it's just nice to have your presence. I think it acts as a deterrent for people sort of hanging out near the library and museum in the park that don't attract the kind of library and museum clientele that we'd like to see. But
Yeah, you guys got a nice area up here. I mean, you're fortunate. I mean, we work all over, and I'm sure the sheriff's department can attest that you guys have got a very nice community up here, and in my opinion, probably one of the safest ones. So it's a nice change of pace for everybody. So it's a pleasant experience to be up here.
it's made a difference to have their vehicle wandering around.
Yeah, if anybody has questions, obviously you guys have got my email, my phone number. Feel free to text or email or.
Okay. And I noticed Anna Davis had a quick question
I
for you.
just want to pile on activity. Thank you again for.
For the Trinidad to Clan Beach run?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have some recommendations on the Clan Beach run for next year. If somebody's taking those.
Well, why don't you and I talk about that?
Yes, yes.
You're gonna run next year? Is that what you said?
Some safety recommendations, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But that was a great event. I think it went on. We were able to help out with that, so.
Okay. Right. I don't see any other questions. I just really appreciate you coming up here and
Appreciate
giving
you
us
having
an
us.
update.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're out. All right, so let's move on to, my husband's probably not helping me out. Let's move on to, we are still on staff reports, and I believe one of the things that we decided to do for those of you who have just joined was to move items 1 through 4 of the consent agenda to the staff report. So we've just finished the law enforcement, which is number 3. We're now on number 4, the Ocean Protection Council SB1 grant funding for the Axel Lindgren Memorial Trail. If staff wants to give us just a couple of minutes update on that, and then the council and public can ask questions.
Sure, Mayor. I'm trying to hope Angela not get up and down. So we didn't have much to comment on this. We just want to leave it as a placeholder, let you know that we are still working on it. We will have more to report in the next quarter. But for this quarter, we're kind of trying to gather costs and actually figure out what a good estimate would be for this project before we come back to council with additional.
Okay. And questions from the council on this item? I mean, I understand that it's going to come back, so this is just a note that this is a work in progress, right? Okay. Questions from the public? Judy, what you say?
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding the Ocean Protection Council grant application for the Axel Lindgren Memorial Trail, we're very supportive of that, but we would like to be included in the discussion. And there was a meeting previously scheduled that was never held. And so before we move forward, we need to reschedule that meeting to discuss the overall plan. And it would be really good to have the technical detail, if whatever there is so far. Be able to have Trinidad Rancheria Tribal Council and executive staff be able to comment on that and maybe assist with, previous experience on like applying for grants and the infrastructure.
All right, thank you. Would we do this as a G to G, Joe?
We could do that, Mayor. There's also time during the council meeting, of course, with public comments to chime in, but we can talk and then we'll get back with Debbie.
So we may need to agendize to select and find a time that works for the Rancheria's board, as well as select 2 council members. Traditionally, it's been the mayor and the mayor pro tem, but it doesn't have to be. It can be voted on by the council, so. Sense? All right, let's see, any other public comments regarding this item? Okay, thank you. With that, then we will move on to. So as we did number 1 through 4, so we have a consent agenda item then, the MOU between the city of Trinidad and Tri Heights. And since we kind of did this a little bit differently, I guess I'll ask if anyone wants to pull that for discussion from the consent. Okay, so the council does not, but a member of the community does. So we now we'll bring it back to the council.
I'll pull it on behalf of the community.
Thank you. Thank you. I was just going to ask that. All right. Well, with that, Joe, do you mind just kind of giving us the highlights of this?
I will give you the highlights, Mayor. This MOA was requested by the Cherry Heights Indian community of the Trinidad Rancheria. It's going to help them and us better apply for, they're going to apply for some grants, and they need this MOA to be able to apply for some of the grants for roads improvements, for access to the Rancheria and Rancheria jurisdictional boundary areas. So this MOA will give them the permission they need from us to be able to do that.
Okay, and does this enable in any way the city to, for example, reconstruct the boardwalk on Edwards, or is this not?
No, this is different projects. This is for the tribe specifically to apply for grants as, and they're doing the same thing with the county side of their road system as well, so.
And then I guess one of the questions, and this may be for Councilor Carmison to answer, I'm not sure, or could you go ahead.
So just one example, Mayor, the recent main break that we had on Rancheria property damaged the road a good bit, and there's some downslope movement that the Rancheria has identified as needing repair. So this is kind of one of those examples where they would use a grant fund to apply to repair that piece of road and the bank, and possibly help us with water line replacement as well, because the county wants us to move that water line more inboard of the curve instead of the outside place that it currently occupies. So that's just an example of something that the Rancheria will use our MOA to kind of bolster their argument for grant funding.
The boundaries that are identified in figure attachment A include the Glendo Trail. And should I be concerned about that in this MOU, or is that not a consideration?
No, it's just, they just listed all the roads that kind of.
Yeah, that's not.
Access to their jurisdictional boundaries, so they included all the roads and areas that had access to those jurisdictional boundaries. And Glendo, just for those folks listening and for folks here, Glendo Street actually goes down through past the Glendo Trail on paper and into that part of their jurisdictional boundary. So even though there's not a road down there, it does continue on paper.
I see. Okay. Do you want to comment, Jackie? It's more of a question.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and City Manager. I had not had an opportunity to review the staff report until today. And the reason I asked for it to be pulled off is I found an error in the attachment A that was overlooked by our planner and our engineers. The seaside parking route 0322, section 10 and 20 is already within Rancheria boundary. So I have a revised attachment A that takes it off. And then we're happy to continue this item to another agenda because of the anomaly and the error that we found.
I think we included that in current MOA that we have before us now, right, Gabe? I think we got that from your staff earlier.
I just received it tonight.
Oh, okay.
The exhibit A that you have in your staff report includes seaside parking, and it should not.
Okay.
There's 2 sections that are incorrect on that attachment. But if I may, I would like to speak to a few of the other items. I'm going to be meeting with the city manager and discussing the boardwalk project and then also our interpretive center project. And those are the 2 areas in question. Galindo Trail is an easement and it does kind of zigzag onto tribal property. And one corner of our interpretive center will be on that easement built as it is now. On the boardwalk, we fully support that project, fully support that being rebuilt. The problem is tribal council does not want and cannot, without a lot of incredibly detailed work that might take years, cannot rent an easement for the boardwalk. It's on tribal property. But what we had done with the stormwater vault was a provisional landowner agreement. And that's what we're hoping to do with both boardwalk and Galindo Trail. To, an MOU between the city and whatever that our attorneys decide is the best legal document. And city manager has sent me a template document that's with my legal right now. So I know we need to work those 2 things out, and I know the boardwalk project is time sensitive. So I'm hoping we can get to that right away. And then back to the inventory. City manager is 100% correct. When it's a city road, say Edward Street blew out, or one of your roads, if it's on our inventory, we can apply for funding. We can apply for funding and enter into an agreement with the city in order to support that project. And what he mentioned with the water line that just blew out, that's the 2nd time it's blown out in the last year. And luckily the time before, Indian Health Service put in a valve so the water could be turned off, which was great. So the pipe has just been reconnected as it was previously. But what we need to do is relocate it to the other side of the road so that in the future, as that slope slips, then it's not going to tear that pipe apart. It has a better chance of not losing it. So the mitigation would be to move it to the other side of the road. We also are waiting for emergency funding to repair scenic drive in that location that we have been told that we have, but that's held up in all of the bureaucracy that's happening federally right now. So yeah, it's really the inventory means we do not receive funding for it, but we can do projects on it and we can apply for funding for it. But it's not generating funding. So, and it's our access roads to our tribal lands. So my transportation director, Leslie Sanders, is on Zoom. And Leslie, I'm just wondering if there's anything you'd like to add if I missed anything.
Apologize. My connection is not well, so
Can you turn your volume up, Leslie?
I'm sorry, I got muted. No, I think you covered it well, Jackie. And again, I apologize not catching the anomaly on the previous attachment A. It should be noted, this is only provides us the opportunity to work with the city as you stated. If Edwards would go out, if it is on our inventory, we can apply for funding and do an MOA with the city. If roads are not on our inventory, we cannot apply for funding. There's one opportunity a year to get roads added. The opportunity is now.
Thank you, Leslie. And as city manager mentioned, we do have these agreements with Caltrans, with county as well. And have these roads in the past have been on our inventory. So thank you so much. I apologize for the error.
Oh, no worries. And it won't impact you if we continue this.
No,
until
it will
your
not.
deadline.
It will not. We can get that correct attachment, revise the the maps, and then perhaps by then city manager and I will have had a chance to talk about the other projects.
Are there any questions? Jackie's here from the council on this MOU, and then we'll have a discussion, I guess, when we continue.
Okay, as they say on email, good catch, Jackie.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's super hard in my job to read every single document that comes through, but I try. And I just got lucky this time and caught something, because usually it's Leslie that catches everything.
Right. Yeah, I kind of noticed that about the parking strip, and I kind of went, is that a property? I really wasn't sure.
Yeah, there's the little strip that goes kind of diagonally across the parking lot that is city jurisdiction.
Right, not the one to.
But not these sections. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Any public comments or questions on this item? And then I think we're going to move to continue this discussion for the updated materials. And so I also move there's a second. Second. Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. All right, so the next, we're on our regularly scheduled agenda item now. Number 1, discussion decision regarding the revised MOU between the City of Trinidad and the West Haven Community Services District. And this is the water system intertie project. So I will turn it over to staff for an update.
So,
No, I looked at the
thank you. So my staff report is a little out of date. As the city manager noted in his report, we met yesterday with the general manager and operator, Paul Rosenblatt, for West Haven Community Service District, and also their board's vice president, Dave Hannigan. We discussed the MOU that was given to West Haven for comment, and our discussions and negotiations led to a few changes to that MOU. Those updates are provided in the published packet online for anyone following along. Also, council will have the updated MOU as well. The staff recommendation remains the same, in that staff recommends that the council approve the MOU between the city and West Haven Community Service District regarding the intertie project. And then just to kind of go through some of the notable changes, generally, everything that I've already noted in my staff report remains the same in terms of roles and responsibilities. There are shared responsibilities now that we've agreed upon, and that's that the city and West Haven jointly share responsibility in testing the intertie pump station, while also putting them into operation. Cost sharing has changed. During our discussions, we came to an agreement that in the event that there are cost overruns, and we've exhausted all of our other options, such as acquiring additional grant funding, that any additional funds required to complete construction shall be apportioned between the city and district at the following percentages of 50% for the city, 50% for West Haven, but only up to $50,000. And then in the event that any additional funds are still required to complete construction exceed that $50,000, the remainder of the cost overruns will be cost shared based on the relative average water sales of both West Haven and the city. Modifications also were made to Exhibit C, which is also provided in the packet. and I just addressed the operations and maintenance, tax responsibilities, and cost sharing. Some of those tasks were specifically delegated to West Haven and others were delegated to the city. Items such as pump repairs, that would be a split cost, 50-50 between the city and West Haven, while other items such as like a larger repair or a pump replacement, that would be cost shared based on the relative average monthly water sales of West Haven and the city as well. And then there were just very minor changes made to Exhibit D, which addressed the roles and responsibilities of each entity, and that's also provided in the packet. And then ground disturbing activities, as I noted, that was added to the MOU, and that has still been included. And also the advanced payment of $417,900 for the construction phase of the project is going to be transferred from West Haven to the city, as we are now going to be taking control of the construction contract, the project. And those are the updates that I have.
Thank you, Angela. Council members, any questions for Angela on this item?
I have one question. It's sort of a what if. If West Haven has excessive need of water, say fire, and Trinidad has excessive need of water, say fire, how is that? And we could run through our resources very quickly. How has that been thought about?
That's an answer I do not have.
Well, I think the fire department would have to, you know, on the ground at that point, figure out where they need the water the most and who's got how much in their tanks. They'd be able to handle a situation like that.
Yeah, the NIMS and SIMS program that fire operates under those conditions would then help determine the need and who's going to prevail the pecking order in that need. That would be a fire chief decision.
I think the nice thing is being able to load balance too, in a situation where, let's say, you know, we had a fire in Trinidad, several houses or something, and we ran out of water. That's where we go to this emergency intertie and pull, you know, water from West Haven or vice versa. If the situation is on their side. I mean, we're in a drought. You know, this is going to be really beneficial in the drought. If one or the other of us.
I think a good example is what happened in December when we had a water main break and a fire on the same evening, and it depleted our water storage to a fairly alarming level. And had we had the intertie, we would have been able to rely on West Haven to help us in that couple-hour period where we needed water.
And I guess I will mention also, Councilmember Tuttle mentioned at the end of our last meeting a future topic that he would like to see on the agenda about connection to Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, but specifically a partnership or working with the Rancheria to potentially have an emergency intertie there. And that would need to be agendized and we would need to discuss that. But I want to mention that because Jack brought that up. This project is nothing to do with that, and this grant cannot be repurposed for that in any way. So I just wanted to mention that. So just out of respect for you mentioning that, Jack, I didn't want to let you think we dropped it. Okay, how about members of the public? Any questions from the members of the public regarding this item? I think we're good. We probably don't, West Haven probably has no comments because they submitted all the changes, so. Yes.
Yeah, I just have one quick question in the backup documentation for the project. I'm wondering if it's a typo in the project description at the end of that paragraph. It says the pump station and pipe design will be designed for a maximum flow of approximately 100 gallons was stricken. It was track changes taken out and it was changed to 20 to 40 gallons per minute. But it's saying the project will increase water supply. So I'm just wondering what the 100 gallons and then.
Those 100 gallons was the initial project at the very early stages of what they were looking at for the project needs. And then once they did the calculations, they realized that that was wildly over. And so it's going down into a 20 40 gallon per minute pump.
So there's an existing grant,
There is.
okay, and was that number in the grant? 20 to 40 or the?
Yeah, that helped us kind of manage the grant into the
Okay,
budget.
okay,
that's
so
there now.
the 100 was pre-grant.
The 100 was a different, yeah, that was, the grant was, I think Angela can answer that question better than me, but
We submitted an
it was,
Okay,
it was an early scope of the project.
Okay.
Once we did the engineering and studies, and we realized it was overbuilt, so we scaled it down.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public panelists? Item? All right, back to the council, Jack. I think you wanted to ask another.
Yeah, I hear that, Trinidad cleans their water at a higher standard than West Haven. And I hear that sometimes they're on a boil notice. Would that be, if they ever gave us water into our pipeline system, would we have to then notify the public about a boil notice here locally in town?
If there is a boil water notice, then yes, we would be a part of that, but I don't think they're under a boil water notice for everything. They have issued boil water notices, but not currently a boil water notice.
Okay.
And that would only be, unless I'm mistaken, that would only be in the instance that we were taking advantage of the intertie, right?
That's
Like,
correct.
in general, we're operating
Right.
completely separately, so.
Very,
But yes,
Very rarely.
if we use their water, we would have to.
yeah, and I asked that question, Councilmember Tuttle, from West Haven, and they said they have only had a few of those, and they've been quite a few years ago. So.
Okay.
And they're working to have a more higher quality water system, build a water treatment plant. So hopefully it'll be better for people in West Haven.
Okay, so we've gone to public and back to council, so we're ready to entertain a motion. I guess I believe we need to vote on this, so I will move to approve the current iteration of the MOU for the West Haven Trinidad intertie.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Angela and Joe, for the hard work on that, and thank you, West Haven. I don't know if they're in the meeting at the moment, but we appreciate the partnership. Okay, so let's go on to discussion decision to accept the FY 2022-2023 audit. And is there a staff discussion on this to lead us
We
on?
have a short primer on our audit, and then we'll have question and answer time. So we completed our audit. The one comment from our auditor was that we were a little outside of the regulatory requirement of one being within the fiscal year. We commented on that to the auditor, that we were in the middle of some changes with city manager and some other staff challenges. He accepted those comments, and the good news is we are in negotiations right now to have them back in April to do our 2024 budget. So we will be well in line with finishing our budget on time and what within the regulations. So we hopefully corrected that deficiency there. Other than that, we don't have any items to report. The audit was clean.
I may have missed this, but maybe shared. When will do we have a timeline for the 24-20?
So April 19th or 21st, it will be on site. And then again, in the beginning of May, they will be on site. And I would guess it would take a month or so to get his audit findings out. So we would hope to see them by the end of FY 24-25. So along with our budget approval, we would hopefully have the audit approval.
All right, thank you for getting us back on track.
I think we need to thank city clerk. He's really the person who's been helping to manage it.
All right, yes, and yeah, I meant staff, Gabe, and Joe. Thank you. Questions for Joe on this, or Gabe? Okay.
I would just comment that it's good to see that our books have passed muster,
Yeah,
the powers that be.
definitely. Any public comments or questions about the audit? All right, I will bring it back. Any questions online about the audit? I'll bring it back to the council. If you guys see, it's behind my head, the screen, so if you see anybody raise their hands, let me know. I'll bring it back to the council. Do we need a motion? Do we need a motion to approve?
I think it's always good to have a motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a move to accept the FY 2022-23 audit?
So you're moving or?
No, I asked if there was.
Okay, I'll make the
I
motion.
thought I'd take turns.
We accept the
Okay.
23,
And
24.
Katie, okay, Katie is seconding it. Thank you, Bryce. All those in favor? Aye. Right. And as we were discussing that, I'm going to kind of change the flow of the meeting just a tad, because I did not finish the items from the floor. So I want to make sure that anyone in the community who wishes to can bring up a topic that is not on tonight's agenda. And since I kind of skipped over that. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about for a few minutes?
I already did mine, right?
I know you're just.
I've already done mine, I'm done.
Mr. Berry did bring up when we're going to talk about the Edward Street crosswalk project again, and we did discuss that. So thank you for that, but I just want to make sure I didn't miss anyone else. Okay. All right. We're good. All right, let's move on then to the mid-year update for the budget, 24-25 budget. And so this will be a good discussion about where we're at with the budget, and also some requests for some other additional items for the town hall renovation and for the employee classification and comp set. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Tonight we have before you a update for our mid-year budget. We also have a request for some budget adjustments for town hall windows, front porch, and rot repair, and for a classification compensation study. As we get into our budget review, first slide, we can get it. I think the good news for our budget review is that I think it's important first to set the stage for what exactly we're discussing. So in FY 2024-25, you approved a budget of $959,556. The revenues that you approved were $923,732. So there was about a $35,000 delta in there. It was a very conservative revenue projection, and that's kind of typical for most agencies. They tend to kind of look at things conservatively and under promise and over deliver, which in this case has turned out very well for us, or it's looking pretty good as of December 2024. Next slide here. So these are the TOT and sales tax. So in FY, you approved $215,000 in transit occupancy tax as a budget projection. As of December 24, we were at $149,157, which is about 69% of that budgeted amount. I will say that we did get the January numbers, and they're tracking right along with this projection. So I would guess that we're going to be a bit ahead of that $215,000 number. We're closing that gap, that $35,000 gap, pretty quickly. Sales tax is kind of the same. It's running a little bit behind TOT at 54%, but it's still ahead of projections. And again, the January numbers show sales tax slightly below this number for January, but we're coming into our busier season. So the fact that we're tracking ahead in December for both these numbers bodes well for our budget going forward. Next slide. Water Enterprise Fund, which is always a topic of discussion here in town. So council did authorize a one-time budget transfer from the general fund of $300,000. As of February 17th, our water fund balance was a $99,000 deficit. So when I took over, it was around $451,000 in the red. In January, we transferred that $300,000. Council approved a budget, a rate adjustment or a rate plan in October of 2024. It went into effect in November of 2024. So we're still seeing the effects of that rate increase. The rate increase did call for some additional cash from council if needed. At this point, after discussion with staff, we're going to try to analyze this budget a little bit more before we come back and ask for money for council. We're going to try to operate on a cash flow basis, and hopefully the cash flow that we have will help cover some of the expenses that we have for some of our plant needs. Having a known budget for the CPO and our CPO is going to help us manage this budget a little better at $4,000 a month. And we don't foresee any general fund loans needed at this time. We are having a discussion tomorrow with our partner from RCAC, who's going to help us dig into these numbers a little bit better so that we can understand them a little bit more and come back to council later in the year when we come back for budget discussions and be able to discuss the water budget a little bit more in depth, and we'll have a little bit more data to be able to discuss that with you all. Right now, the Water Enterprise Fund with the $300,000 gift and the rate increase, it seems to be helping, and we're heading in the right direction. We do have some budget adjustment requests. These items were both long-term and current goals for council. The long-term goals, both the town hall improvement and the classification compensation study going back to 2013 and probably even before that, but that's where I started seeing some of these discussions that council actually had a classification and compensation study in the 2013 budget. They had a line item for it. Unfortunately, that was never executed. So now things being as they are, the budget's increased. I have had a couple of proposals. I thought this number was a little high. Turns out this number was probably almost right in line and actually a little bit low. The company that I have been discussing this with thinks that 25,000 is the upper number, and they think it's going to come in considerably less than this, but they wanted to be safe in that number just in case they have to go out and look at the challenge for us is trying to find a small city that owns and operates its own water treatment plant and water distribution system, and trying to find the compensation plans that match our budget and our side. So they may have to go out to a few more cities to be able to do that, and that could take extra work. So that's where the unknown is with this budget. I will say that when it comes to maintaining and owning and operating infrastructure, it requires regular maintenance. Coastal influences kind of increase that need. Again, the town hall windows and the rot repair have been on a list for a very long time. So we're finally at a spot where I think it's important that we get it now before it gets so far gone. It's going to cost a lot more money. And we can talk a little bit about that with our next slide. Town hall windows and rot repair. So the white window on the left-hand side of your screen. We also have the windows here for those of you who want to look at them. Physical samples here on site, but I provided these for the folks watching online and out on the internet. The town hall windows are Milgard Series V400 would be the windows that you would see here in town hall, and the windows that aren't generally public facing, like out on Edward or Trinity Street. They're a vinyl clad aluminum window. Our chief building official, who was a contractor here in the county for a long time, recommended both of these products, both because of their durability. In the case of the Milgard window, it's affordability and kind of value pricing for the amount of windows we will have, and longevity that they will provide because of what they're made of. The Weather Shield Premium Series is a It's more of an architectural style window. It has a wood interior and exterior. It matches what we kind of have out front, and our chief building official thought that because those windows are so nice, we should probably replace them with something that would be able to stain and match both what's inside the Civic Club and inside the clerk's office. So that would be 4 windows. Those go for approximately $3,300 each, and the white vinyl clad windows are $950, and that's an installed price. That's the best estimate we have right now without going out to bid. Next slide, Jim. Front porch flooring, so the carpet on the front porch, I don't think it was made to last as many years as it's been here. It's pretty worn. This product is, again, something that the building official recommended. It's the garage floor epoxy coating, but it would work well in the porch, for our front porch with the wear and tear that we get there. It's easy for staff to maintain. Staff suggests the gray color on the far right-hand side. That's a darker gray with the terrazzo look with those chips that provide some slip resistance. Be easy to maintain. It wouldn't show dirt as much, and it's good for salt environment kind of stuff that we have here in town. So we estimate this project to be around $60,000. We will know more when we provide a bid document based on council's recommendation to go out and look at these windows and this package that is in staff report, and we will come back with a better bid package and estimate. Should we need it? Council meetings. Next, we have one more slide in here. No? Okay. We talked about the classification compensation study a little bit, but I will talk about it a little bit more. So this, again, is something that has been on the council list of goals and objectives. I look back at least 2013, similar to the windows. There was an $8,000 or a $10,000 placeholder for this study back in 2013. I called that same company to ask them for a quote, and that's the quote that was a bit higher than the quote I got from the other company that we're going with, RGS, Regional Governmental Services. Just things have gotten more expensive. I think the thing with the classification and compensation study, we have people that are working in classifications that don't exist in our inventory. We have people that are working out of classification. We have people working in classifications that need to be reclassified because they're doing things that aren't currently in their classification list. Compensation studies, right now, it's a healthy organization has a compensation range that's a more objective number and model. Currently, it's a much more subjective model, so it's up to the city manager to decide who gets a pay raise and when. Healthy organizations have a range of pay within a classification that gives the supervisor or city manager, in this case, the ability to help put a person in the proper classification, and then they will get compensation based on that range of pay and how they perform in an evaluation on an annual basis. Council was right in asking for this to be done. I think the time is now to get it done, and I'm asking council for this budget adjustment for $25,000 to allow the city manager to go out and execute this agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions or comments you may have on any or all of this subject we talked about.
Questions from the council?
Just a memory refresher. I can never remember whether the 300,000 transfer was a gift or a loan.
It was a gift, and with the provision that any additional funds would be a loan. So there was $100,000. I think it was $250,000 total. And I think the rate study recommended $100,000 in the first year, and then $350,000 loans if needed to follow. Right now, I'm not convinced that we're going to need any of it, but we'll see.
Okay. And as far as classifications, I'm trying to picture what exactly Is that exactly that means? Is that like a distinction between a part-time employee and full-time, or a management employee versus a frontline employee?
It's not part-time or full-time. It describes the tasks that employees perform within a classification. So, for example, our public works supervisor, we have two different classifications of public works. We have a water worker and a public works person. I think we're too small of an organization to have those two classifications. It would work better to have a public works classification that included water work, and then we would have a range of pay scales depending on what credential you hold within the water, the T3, T2, or T1. That's just one example. Another example is we have a person who's working as a they were hired under one classification. They were promoted by the previous city manager to a classification that doesn't exist. And so
What classification?
the classification they were hired was an admin assistant, and then they were promoted to a deputy clerk. We have the work for a deputy clerk. There is no classification for a deputy clerk, so we don't have a job description. We don't have a pay scale. So that is one challenge we have. We have our city clerk is basically working as an assistant city manager, and there's an awful lot of work that is not included in his current job description. And then we have that to be fair, those same challenges go from the top of our classification all the way down to the bottom. It's the same challenges we have with the classification system. It doesn't match what we do today to the work that we require of our staff.
So classification kind of similar to the job description.
It is.
There's some overlap.
It is a job description, right? And then it matches that pay scale to that job description.
Okay, good, thanks.
The questions, comments? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll probably have a few final things, but I want to open to public comments about this. About the budget, and also some of the asks that were presented. Mr. Davis.
Yes, and it's actually just on the windows, the mill guard windows, we have those in our house. I think they're the same ones that I have to go look. They made it about 10 years, and then we had to do the warranty on them to because they put that gas in the middle of it, et cetera, et cetera. So my only comment was the warranty process actually was pretty smooth and pretty easy. Just make sure you got a nice warranty on it.
Good to know. We could look at it.
I would bring that up.
Yeah.
I will bring that up to our building.
Yeah, thank you. Other comments or questions about the budget or some of the asks for the town hall? Right. Right. Bring it back to the council then. I would like to say, just on the comp and classification study, I had one-on-ones with every employee last year as part of our 360 review process. And I found a lot of discrepancies in kind of salary and job classifications. And my experience as a manager is that can lead to a lot of dissatisfaction. And we're such a small team here that we want, it just needs to be a really good, high-functioning team. And morale is super important to that. So I'm a big proponent of that. And then the renovation of the town hall, this is kind of the pride of the community and a gathering place. And so this is just kind of phase one, I think, is getting the windows replaced and, getting the front porch and the solar, what would you call it, the electrical panel. That's all part of that front porch renov. And then down the road, I think we've talked about maybe a year from now doing the, painting the exterior. We'll get to that.
So,
right?
Yes, Mayor, thank you for reminding me. So FY 25, 26, upcoming FY, we would ask the council to consider capital improvement projects to paint the exterior of the building. And then the next year, we would want the council to consider approving the floor and the interior of town hall.
Yeah, which would be really great, I think. And I'm happy to see the mid-year budget, on track and actually we're doing pretty well. The only other thing I would maybe add is if we had some extra spare change we may want to continue to look at the AV systems. And I know you're, well aware of the feedback that we're continuing to get feedback that online hybrid meetings, recordings, things like that are.
I will say that the city clerk today had our sound person in to do a adjustment of our soundboard, and we did get some feedback from them. We're gonna look at a few different options, and we will come back to you when we get those improvements or start looking at those improvements.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. And will these slides, the budget slides, be included in the public documents? Like when you guys do the PowerPoints, they're usually added, right, Dave, to the packet?
Site, to the packet?
Yeah, or uploaded to the website. Like you could have the agenda, the packet, and then the presentation. Would that be okay? Because
Yeah.
Okay, I'd appreciate that because folks come looking for the PowerPoints and aren't sure where to find them.
It's all public work projects, it's all available.
Okay, yes, public information. Okay, thank you. I'm just relaying some public feedback. All right, anyone else? Don't want to talk about color schemes for the paint yet, huh? Okay. We'll get to that. And that's gonna be a fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Add extra time.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think we had any specific questions about the budget. It was very thorough, so kudos for that. Thank you, staff. How about future agenda items?
Don't we need to approve the budget amendments?
That's probably a good idea. Thank you. Would you like to?
I feel like I've been making too many. I'm gonna
Okay.
defer to some of my colleagues if they want to take.
All right.
You guys fight it out.
You don't have to, if you want to.
Yeah, it's the amendments.
I propose that we accept the $60,000 for town windows, et cetera, and the $25,000 for classification and compensation.
As well as the mid-year budget.
The mid-year budget update and discussion. Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
I second.
And there's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks, staff, for that. Great work. Okay, we're at the point of the meeting where the council will discuss future agenda items and the public can weigh in some ideas as well. So council, any future agenda items you'd like to see teed up?
Can't think of anything right now.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We have plenty to work on, plenty to chew on already. I guess the only thing, maybe water leaks at some point. We've done a lot of work on the distribution system. I don't know. I think I guess I continue to be kind of concerned that the level of, and I don't know if that'd be a whole agenda item, but.
We do have an update, Mayor, if you'd like a little update on our minutes. Today.
Sure.
Which weeks, are we specific, the ones that?
No, this is our leak rate for the month.
That was next.
Yeah, so we're talking about the water loss.
Yeah.
So 20% was our water loss this month. But we believe that to be even lower because we had some flushing. There was a lot of activity going on when the new tank got brought online. There's a lot of water line flushing that wasn't accounted for that we're going to bring into the mix next month, which will then bring our overall average for the year, month by month percentage, will be. But that makes a big difference. This particular month, 20%, I think 15% is kind of, from what I've heard, at least from Madrone, who seems to have familiarity with the systems, 15 to 20%. Is that
15% is what we probably don't want to higher than that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it's a kind of the number that's common. So with that said, I think our water system, the average water loss average is pretty good, but we do have immediate spikes, as we know from Scenic Drive. I mean, that can really destroy, our leak.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just harken back to like the Water Advisory Committee, requesting, new water tank, and we did the new water tank, and so that was great. And, we've done a lot of things that were on that list, and one of them was to look at the distribution system.
We can come back with an item for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they have an ongoing, they're always looking, to improve the leak situation. So it's just a matter of isolating the problem areas and finding the money to replace.
Yeah.
As we go.
Yeah, and I know staff works hard, the water folks to address that. All right, from the public, any future agenda items that you'd like to see? John?
If I could just say from my seat, we did get the Mark Sunberg water leak fixed today. So that'll help. It was hard to track down. And then just our item back on the agenda regarding the inventory. We'll submit that document to the city manager and request the item to come back on the.
Okay, thank you. So we have the MOA, that was item number 5 is being requested as a future agenda item. Other things that folks would like us to discuss? All right, well then we will close tonight's meeting at 7:30. I think this might be a record. The meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, no, that. Yeah. There's thank you for your work. I mean, you're putting away right now. Yeah, sure. Yeah, man. I'll email you. And it's raining the next. I'll give you my phone number. It's not great. No, I'm not going straight fast. Maybe it'll be right.